The desert does not forgive. It does not forget. It simply waits. Look closely at the Monument Valley, the red monoliths standing like the silent ribs of a forgotten god. In the heart of this crimson wasteland, a man named Silas is dying. But this is not a common death. He is not dying of thirst, though his throat is filled with the taste of dry copper. He is not dying of heat, though the sun beats down like a hammer on an anvil. He is being reclaimed. 30 years ago, the valley was a different place. It was a sanctuary, a hidden emerald pocket of life where the Navajo people guarded the heart of the sun. A legendary fire eagle that supposedly held the breath of the land in its white wings. Silas, then a young hunter with eyes cold as silver coins, didn't see a miracle. He saw a payday, the massacre at the sacred spring. Silas stood on the rim of the canyon, his Winchester rifle heavy and warm in his hands. Below him, the tribe was celebrating the summer solstice. They were a peaceful people, their lives woven into the fabric of the dust and the stars. Silas adjusted his iron sights. He targeted the white eagle perched on a ceremonial totem. "Don't do it, Silas," his guide, a weathered scout named Miller, whispered. "The Navajos say if that bird falls, the earth itself will stop breathing for those who drew the blood." Silas didn't even blink. "The earth doesn't breathe, Miller. It just rots. And that bird's talons are worth more than your soul." Crack. The sound of the rifle was a sacrilege. It ripped through the sacred silence of the morning like a blade through silk. The fire eagle didn't just fall. It disintegrated into a cloud of white feathers soaked in a liquid that was too red, too bright to be mere blood. As the tribe screamed and the sky turned a bruised purple, Silas descended. He stepped over the bodies of the fallen without a glance. He reached the bird, its golden eyes still flickering with a dying sun, and he ripped the talon of fate from its neck. The old chieftain, his chest pierced by a stray bullet, looked up at Silas with a gaze that wasn't full of hate, but pity. "You have taken the breath, Silas," the old man rasped, his voice sounding like sand shifting in a tomb. "Now, the desert will follow you. It will be in your wine. It will be in your bed. It will be in your lungs. And when the debt is ripe, it will take you back." Silas laughed, spit on the red earth, and rode away with a bag full of gold and a heart made of stone. Wealth did not come to Silas as a gift. It came as a trade-off. By 1910, the blood of the Navajo Valley had been washed away by the fog of San Francisco. Silas was no longer a hunter. He was a titan. He owned the banks that held the city's debts. He wore suits tailored in London and drank scotch older than the country itself. But the marble walls of his mansion held a secret that no amount of money could silence. It started with the textures. One evening, while hosting a gala for the city's elite, Silas raised a crystal flute of vintage champagne. As the liquid touched his lips, he didn't taste the grapes of France. He tasted grit. He tasted the dry, alkaline dust of the Arizona desert. He looked into his glass, and his heart nearly stopped. The golden bubbles were gone. In their place was a swirl of red silt, thick and suffocating. He gasped, dropping the glass. It shattered on the floor, but instead of wine, a small pile of red sand spilled out, spreading across the white silk carpet like a growing tumor. The guests laughed, thinking it a clumsy accident, but Silas saw the truth. The desert had found his address. He retreated to his private study, slamming the oak doors. He looked at his hands, hands that signed the foreclosures of thousands. Between his fingernails, fine red dust began to seep out, as if his very bones were grinding into sand. "The debt is ripe," the chieftain's voice whispered in the ticking of the grandfather clock. Silas looked at the talon of fate kept in a velvet-lined safe. The gold plating was peeling away, revealing the jagged, angry bone beneath. The fire eagle wasn't a memory anymore. It was a predator, and it had finally tracked its prey to the coast. The universe has a cruel way of collecting interest on unpaid debts. It doesn't always take the man who committed the sin, it takes what the man loves most. For Silas, that was his son, Arthur. Arthur was everything Silas wasn't: kind, artistic, and full of life. But on his 21st birthday, the light began to fade. It didn't start with a fever. It started with a crack. A small, dry fissure appeared on Arthur's cheek. Within weeks, his skin became a landscape of drought. No ointments could soothe it. No doctors from the East Coast could explain it. Arthur was becoming a statue of salt and silt. "Father," Arthur whispered one night, his voice sounding like two stones rubbing together. "I dream of a bird. A white bird with fire in its eyes. It's circling the house, Silas. It says, I am the payment." Silas watched in horror as his son's bedsheets became filled with red sand. Every morning, they would sweep out pounds of dust from the boy's room. The mansion, once a symbol of pride, felt like a tomb being filled from the inside out. Silas realized that his gold was useless. He offered $1 million to any man who could cure his son. But the desert doesn't take currency. It only takes life. Silas realized that the only way to save the branch was to return to the root. He looked at the talon, then at his dying son. If he stayed, Arthur would become a pile of dust by the next full moon. The hunt was over. The harvest had begun. Silas left San Francisco under the cover of a blood-red moon. He didn't take his servants. He didn't take his gold. He only took his horse, a canteen of water, and the talon of fate. The journey back to Arizona took weeks, but for Silas, it felt like centuries. The closer he got to the valley, the more the modern world stripped away. His fine clothes became rags. His horse grew weary, its breath coming in ragged gasps that sounded like the drums Silas heard in his sleep. When he finally reached the rim of Monument Valley, the air was stagnant. The silence was heavy, expectant. Silas climbed down from his horse, his knees buckling. He crawled toward the spot where he had pulled the trigger 30 years ago. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the talon. It was glowing now, a faint, rhythmic pulse of white light. He held it up to the sky. "I am here!" Silas screamed into the void. "Take it back! Take me! Leave the boy!" The earth didn't answer with words. It answered with a roar. A sandstorm erupted from the floor of the valley, rising like a tidal wave of fire and grit. In the center of the storm, Silas saw the fire eagle. It wasn't a bird anymore. It was a storm of justice. Its wings spanned the horizon, blotting out the sun, turning the world into a crimson nightmare. Silas didn't run. He opened his arms. As the sand hit him, it didn't just sting. It integrated. His skin, his blood, his memories, everything began to dissolve. He felt the weight of every life he had stepped on, every gold coin he had stolen. By dawn, the storm was gone. The valley was silent once more. The talon of fate lay on the red earth, pristine and white, as if it had never been touched by human hands. Silas was gone. In his place stood a new rock formation, a twisted, kneeling figure of sandstone, forever looking down at the valley with eyes of stone. Back in San Francisco, Arthur woke up. His skin was smooth. The sand was gone. The debt was paid in full. Silas Vance bartered his soul to build a kingdom of glass and gold. But in the end, the only thing he truly owned was an eternal plot of land, made of nothing but dust. If you ever find yourself standing at the crossroads between profit and conscience, remember Silas. Remember that the high desert always knows how to reclaim what was stolen. It doesn't matter how far you run, the harvest always finds its way home. Thank you for witnessing the karmic journey of Silas Vance. If this story forced you to look at the debts in your own life, hit the like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below with the words "The Earth Remembers" to stand with those who believe in the unyielding justice of the Great Spirit. I'll see you at the next crossroads, here on Western Verdict.